Niaz, relatives of the deceased, our distinguished Prime Minister, honorable colleagues, ministers of government, respected religious leaders, respected elders, brothers and sisters, I greet you on behalf of the government of Guyana, as well as on behalf of the General Secretary and the leadership of the People's Progressive Party. I am again privileged to be part of this important observation to celebrate and commemorate the lives of those who were so mercilessly slaughtered 13 years ago. And I want to take this opportunity to compliment and commend the IAC and Panko Steel and Fabrication Works for continuing to host this very important commemorative event. Like many of who spoke before me, I was also here on the morning of the 26th of January, 13 years ago. And that day will remain etched in my memory for the rest of my life, as I'm sure it will remain etched in the memories of everyone who witnessed this horrendous tragedy which occurred here. It's clear beyond dispute that what transpired here was not a crime. It was an act of unspeakable hatred, an act of unspeakable cruelty, and an act of madness. And it scarred the psyche of this nation permanently. And we know that there were undercurrents and underlying factors that led to the manifestation of this human tragedy. We know that there were ulterior forces that drove those who committed this act against humanity. And 13 years hence, while we must condemn it in the strongest possible way, we must also introspect and we must also reflect to see whether as a society we have learned anything from it. How else can we pay respect and homage to those who perished under such circumstances if at least as a society, as a people, we don't do that which is necessary to ensure against a recurrence? And have we done that as a society? Not a single person who was responsible, who committed the act, neither were the intellectual authors convicted by our legal system. We have failed miserably. Do the circumstances which gave rise to what we saw manifested here, do they still exist in our society? We saw only recently similar atrocities, thankfully of less gravity, committed on the roadways of West Coast, Berbice, where hundreds of innocent people were beaten, robbed, molested, violated, simply because of their ethnicity and their geographic location. This is our country. It is made for all of us. But if we don't take up the mantle of rehabilitation reform and do all that is necessary to mold our society into a cohesive unit, then we will have violent aberrations of this type cyclically manifesting itself at intervals. Paying lip service to national unity is not helping us. We have to delve deeper, and every strata of the society must become engaged, starting with the politicians. And how do we demand and command from the politician that sense of responsibility that will make events like this only of historical value and not a recurrent theme? How? The power lies in your hands, the people. The power lies in your hands. The religious leaders have a role to play. Our law enforcement agencies have a role to play. Us in government, we have a fundamental role to play as well. My colleague Anand Prasad says, report to the police. I wish if I can stand here and say with confidence, 13 years after I heard the victim say that they called the police and they did not come, that I can say 13 years hence that if they call the police, they will come. So where have we moved as a society? And if we do not move as a society, then all these photographs behind me and all those who perished and who have been permanently scarred emotionally, psychologically and otherwise by the events that occurred 13 years ago, all of that anguish, suffering, pain would have been in vain. All of it is in vain. Bartica, a week after, the MC in his introductory remarks spoke about that. Therefore, we have a lot of work to do in our country. We are a small population. We have massive resources. Our country is moving into a developmental trajectory never seen before. This country will be transformed within the next 5 to 10 years. People from all parts of the globe are flocking to come here, COVID or no COVID, because they see our country as a beacon of hope, as a beacon of prosperity. But unless we come together as a people, then they will divide us and they will exploit us. And the true benefits that we are to derive from our country, from all the developments that will take place, from all the oils, from all the hotels that you're reading will be built, from all the high-rise buildings, we will simply not be able to be the true beneficiaries of the great wealth of our country if we continue to live like animals. So that is the conversation that we have to have. And how do we rid our countries of leaders who are not prepared to lead in that direction? How do we remove them from the apparatus of leadership and replace people who are capable of unifying this country? That is a power that you have. And that is what I want you to think about. Because as I said, the factors, the underlying factors that precipitated this horrendous tragedy still exist in the undercurrents of our society. And a Lusignan Massacre can occur again. It can occur again. And that is what we have to guard against as leaders and as people, as citizens of our country. And it can't be done by one group. It has to be done by all of our people coming together. And if we don't do it, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot. And the quicker we understand that, the better. The world is swift. This world is not long ago. It's a fast-moving world. And we have a duty to ourselves, to our families, and to our country to move with that pace and to remove from our midst, remove from influence those whose agenda do not coincide with our best interests. And you have the power to do so. And when we reflect here on the lives of those who perished, because so far we have failed them. We have failed them. To pay proper tribute to their lives, to pay respect to their lives, we owe it to ourselves and to future generations to ensure that we create an environment that does not produce this kind of human tragedy. So, my brothers and sisters, we are the shapers and molders of our own destiny. The power and the responsibility lies with us. I hope that we get it right. Before I close, I want to once again extend to the relatives of all the deceased persons, on behalf of the government of Guyana, and on behalf of the leadership of the People's Progressive Party, our deepest condolences. And I commit, on behalf of the government and on behalf of the People's Progressive Party, that we will always stand with you and by every single Guyanese who is interested in building a peaceful and harmonious society. I thank you very much.